Good morning, people, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 19th of July. It's another hot one. I'm joined by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how are we doing?
Good, Derek. Enjoying the heat. Not quite as bad up here as it is down there, but I think it is going to be quite hot later today. So, it should be a hot one for the players at Ibrox.
Yeah, it's set to be a record temperature here in the northwest of England today. I've got the fan on behind me. I'm sweating already. It's going to be a long day. There's no doubt about it. Let us know where you're watching the show today, folks. So many of you tuning in around the globe. It's great to have your company. Just a little bit of housekeeping as ever. As you can see, we're sponsored by the One Football app. It's your one-stop shop for all your footballing needs. You can keep up to date with all the latest news from Ibrox. You can get notifications to your phone, all the latest signing news. And you can keep an eye on the fixtures and what have you. Lots of stats on there as well. You can also keep in touch with what's going on, not only in Scottish football, but across the border and down south in England, and also in the continent as well. The good news about it is totally free, so it won't cost you a penny. And it's available for iPhone and Android users, so go and download it wherever you get your apps. And as you can see, the little ticker below, we've got that great offer on the site just now, where you pay £2, you get 2 months worth of content. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. Okay, let's talk Rangers then, Joshua. We'll touch on the Champions League draw first of all before we talk transfers and look ahead to tonight's friendly with West Ham. The draw was made yesterday, and the Belgian side, Union Saint-Gilloise, are the team that Rangers will face. The first leg will be in Belgium, expected to be moved to Leuven, which is around about half an hour away from Brussels, where their stadium is, because I don't think their ground meets UEFA Champions League standards. It holds 9,400. I think the Leuven stadium just holds slightly more than that, so not big at all. But the first leg in Belgium on either the 2nd or 3rd of August, with the return at Ibrox on the 9th of August. I think everyone was sort of hoping to avoid Monaco, Joshua, but the Belgian side, I think people may be unfamiliar with who they are and what sort of side they are. I can tell you they were leading the Belgian league for their regular season, and then splits off at the end into playoffs, and then Club Brugge were able to leapfrog them and take that automatic Champions League spot. But they are no mugs, and it'll be a difficult contest, this one, Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the draw, and I think when you see who was at PSV and Monaco come out the hat first, it is a good draw regardless, because obviously one of them will go out and you don't have to play either of them, both strong teams. You know, PSV got quite far in the Conference League last season, and have made some good signings this summer, and obviously Monaco, quite a big name in European football, and have really strengthened the last couple of years. So I think good to avoid them. But as you say, how are you pronouncing it, Derek? I should have listened to you.
Union Saint-Gilloise, I believe.
Saint-Gilloise. Okay, we'll go with that.
Or USG or Union SG, as they're known also.
I'm going to go for Union SG because that sounds more. That sounds easier at this time in the morning. But we've got a piece on the website, amongst many pieces on the website we've got today and yesterday, loads of content, explaining a little bit about their background. So historically, they were Belgium's third most successful club. Recently spent 48 years in what Craig calls the proverbial wilderness before they're promoted back to the top flight. Obviously, as you say, they're owned by Tony Bloom, who also owns Brighton and has quite a modern way, I guess, of managing a football club, given his background is in numbers and data, and did very well last season. We're very close to winning the league there, as you say. So I think they've sold one of their better players from last season already, whose name escapes me. Oh, it was Undav, who's went back to Brighton. That's right.
Japanese player as well, Matoma, I believe his name is.
Yeah, so play a 3-5 back predominantly, which would be interesting to see if Van Bronckhorst matches up with him, because he's done that in the past. So, and they've also had good pre-season results. They beat Feyenoord 4-0, drew against Brighton 0-0, I think. So, yeah, to get into the Champions League, there's gonna not be an easy game per se. In the same way that getting to the Europa League final, there was certainly no easy games. I think Rangers will have taken that draw. I think if they could have had any team, they'd have probably gone for Union. Maybe not, but certainly one of the teams that one of the couple teams you'd have preferred instead of Monaco or PSV probably. And it'll be interesting to see how Van Bronckhorst does, because as Craig pointed out on in this piece and on Twitter yesterday, this is kind of a bit of an unknown, if you will. He's beaten bigger teams. Rangers have punched upwards under him. But in terms of, if you look at Braga away, Red Star away, they weren't good performances. And whereas if you look at, Gerrard maybe going away from home in those type of European games, was very good at keeping the game tight and restricting the opposition. So it's going to be a test for the squad at this stage of the season. But you would say, Derek, that it's looking a lot healthier than it did a couple of weeks ago. And maybe with a new arrival to be announced as well quite soon, I think Rangers will certainly be confident going into it.
Yeah, the boss man's got in touch, Joshua. He says they're known as USG, so you can refer to them as that. That saves you trying to pronounce their actual name. But yes, it's a tie to look forward to. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think everyone just feared Monaco with the fact they've spent a bit of money and the fact of their name. But there'll be no mugs, and I'm sure Rangers won't be taking them lightly. Let's talk transfer news then, Joshua, because it was reported yesterday. I've seen reports that Galatasaray had made a bid for Glen Kamara. Now, we're led to believe that has not been the case. No bid has been submitted for Kamara. Of course, it wouldn't be a surprise to see clubs considering tabling an offer for him. I think he's one of those players. He's not in the final year of his contract, so he just signed that new deal. I think last year, wasn't it, around?
Yeah, last September.
October or sometime September, October. Yeah. So there's no immediate rush to sell him. However, in terms of an attraction to him, of course, he's a player that's attracted to attention in different clubs across the continent before. And it wouldn't be surprised to see a club make an offer for him, Joshua. Would he be one? I know that many supporters feel that he could be one Rangers could bring in a substantial fee for. And would it necessarily weaken the squad too much, you would say?
Well, I was writing it in yesterday's newsletter about the importance of selling players at the right time. And that's something Ross Wilson spoke about when I think it was at Van Bronckhorst's press conference unveiling last November. With Bassey, the Rangers are certainly doing that because I don't think he's ever going to be as hot as he is after that final performance in the Europa League final. His growth over the that 6-7 month period, and I guess what you always risk with players if you keep them when they're at the maybe peak of their value is that it could drop. Now, I don't know how much Kamara's last season will have impacted his value from maybe last summer. 8 million certainly is not the number that I think when you look at what Kamara has been capable of at the peak of his Rangers career. I don't think that's very fair value. But equally, I think it's a bit of a tricky situation with Kamara. Yes, you've got 3 years in his contract, but you look at that first half against Blackpool when Kamara's the highest midfielder, he's man marking Blackpool's deep midfielder. He's got nice touches. I think you could see higher up the pitch how effective he was in the Europa League. Even at points domestically, that cross in the 1-0 win over Aberdeen, the goal against St Johnstone, but I still don't think that's his natural instinct. And therefore, you've got a player of real immense technical quality, but I don't think the style suits him just generally. And that's why I think under Gerrard he was so good and he improved so rapidly because he's so press resistant, so good at playing through, plenty of touches of the ball. Had Stephen Davis next to him who could kind of set the tempo. And now there's not as much of a clear role for him. And we've seen, I think the best, I guess, example of a stylistic change between Gerrard and Van Bronckhorst is when you see Glen Kamara run beyond the striker at Ibrox or, run and make a third man run beyond the ball when you just never seen him do that beforehand because it was all about slower pace, creating the numbers in the middle of the pitch, using his qualities. They're still using his back-to-goal qualities. They're still trying to get the best out of him, but higher up the pitch. And I think it'll still take a bit of work to get the very best out of him in that regard. So it's a little bit of a difficult one. I think if a good bid was to come in, you could get a player who was more suited to Van Bronckhorst's style. And certainly it looks like Kamara is more considered in not necessarily the defensive midfield conversation where you've got, Lundstrom, Davis, Jack, Sands, McCann. I think he's regarded as that lineup. But as I say, I don't know how suited that role is from under Van Bronckhorst. So it'd be interesting to see what people think in the comments below. But 8 million, certainly for a player, again, of his quality and the fact that he's an international, you look at his performances in Europe, 8 million isn't fair value for him.
Yeah, sort of touch on Daniel's point here. He says we can afford to let Kamara go, but not for a box of Turkish delights. They need to get you with their offers. Well, they haven't made an offer as far as we know, Daniel. But yeah, you're totally correct. Any club that wishes to prize him away will have to pay top dollar. I have to say I was impressed with him on Saturday. Played in the more advanced role, which was interesting, behind the striker. Started off on the left-hand side and moved centrally, and some of his touches were just jaw-dropping. Some of the, I mean, his control, his close control, and his ability to beat men is unreal. It really is a joy to watch him in action. But no such bid for Glen Kamara as yet. Just want to touch on this. Aldo getting in touch here, good friend of the show. He wants a wee shout out for the newest member of the Rangers family, baby Maya McNaught. Congratulations, Aldo, and welcome to the Rangers family, Maya. Fantastic news there. Also, obviously, there's a piece on the website talking about Ben Davis. Joshua, we've got a great scouting piece on there. I've also interviewed the Preston North End matchday commentator and the Liverpool Echoes Blood Red podcast editor, hugely popular podcast, Guy Clark, a good friend of mine down here. He speaks very highly of him. Mark Lawson's watched that interview. It's on YouTube, folks. There's also the article on the website as well. So do go check it out. Guy knows what he's talking about. He's watched him a great deal from breaking through at Preston. Even at his loan spells, he's had a number of loan spells at different clubs. He says he was rated as a £10 million player. A lot of Preston fans feel a £10 million player before Liverpool took him to Anfield for £500,000. The reason being he had 6 months left on his contract, and Preston weren't looking to stand in his way. Of course, if the champions of England at the time were looking to bring you into the club, then it would be very difficult to turn that down. So, great insight into Ben Davis. And I think that move should, we expect that to be concluded fairly soon, don't we, Joshua? I think it's good at Rangers. I know there's a comment yesterday saying, is it knee-jerk with Calvin Bassey heading to Ajax? I don't feel that's the case. And I think from all accounts, Rangers are getting a top quality player here.
Yeah, I mean, I've written a scout report on the website that so I spent a lot of yesterday looking at Ben Davis. The first thing to start with, it was an interesting detail. The Athletic Liverpool writers did a really good kind of deep dive piece on the backgrounds of him coming to Anfield. And they say that their sources at the club said he was viewed as the standout left-footed centre-back in the Championship by Liverpool scouts, although at the time he went for so cheap. And the quote that is in the piece was that those scouts at Liverpool thought he was a better player than Adam Webster, who'd signed for Brighton from Bristol City a couple of years prior for £20 million. So I think when you look at that £2 million fee and you see that he went to Liverpool and didn't play, it can give a bit of a false perception of a player that's coming into his prime, left-footed, so is at a premium, and is undoubtedly, after that move to Liverpool, wants to go somewhere, be a starter and make the best out of the best years of his career. I've had a look at a lot of different aspects of Davis and how he plays, how he could fit in. I think the most important thing to start with is that, I can't remember if we've spoken about this yesterday, but we speak about it so much, you'll have to forgive me if I repeat myself, Derek. You know, when teams play Rangers and they know Connor Goldson's better on the ball, whoever's at left centre back, whether it be Bassey, Balogun, Hollander, sometimes there'll be more pressure on Goldson than there is on Hollander. I think one of the big issues that Van Bronckhorst needed to correct this summer was how his team plays out through pressure, to not be predictable. And Davis would definitely give you that. He can do what Goldson does on the other flank in terms of hitting diagonals, in terms of finding the front line, whether that be with his instep or clipping the ball in behind. And we've got the map of his progressive passes in that scout report that's really reflective of that. And on the ball, he's just quite classy. I think you see it as soon as you watch footage of him, and anyone who's went onto YouTube and watched some of his passes or elsewhere will have seen that. So I think certainly in a possession dominant team, it's only going to be enhanced. I think he looks pretty good in his defensive duels. He's got almost an 80% win rate. That drops about 20% with aerial duels, and that is kind of the main worry. Doesn't look that strong in the air. Often goes into aerial battles if he's holding his striker with his feet. So that will, I think, be something that the club will have looked at, but I'm sure it doesn't derail the definitive quality that he has in possession. And as I say, not lightning quick, but comfortable defending high up the pitch, and that's what you need to replace if you're going to play someone in this system. I think Derek and Van Bronckhorst man marking system, you need someone who's comfortable to go high up the pitch, to not necessarily dive in, but choose their moments well, be relatively mobile. And if you put all those factors together, someone who's left-footed coming into the peak years of their career, as I say, good on the ball and offers that balance at the back, it looks like a pretty sensible signing, and one that you could look back on and say, do you know what, he was a solid player for a number of years. And Connor Goldson hasn't had a long-term partner really because Hollander's injuries. Hollander, I don't think Hollander's is quite as mobile or happy defending as high up the pitch as Davies is. He's certainly not as good at distributing long range. So looks like a good signing to me if and when it's completed. And as you say, from what we understand, it should be. But sometimes these things can just take a little bit more time. So, you know, there's been a lot of signings over the last week, Derek, isn't there? So maybe the club's taking the time.
Yeah, big shout out to We Are the People who's got in touch. She's 30 today, lads. Cheer me up with some good news, man. Happy birthday. Glad you're tuning in this morning. Hope you have a great day, buddy. There's a comment coming in here I wanted to touch on. An interesting one ties in with Ben Davis. Stephen Kirkland says, morning, guys. Davis is a brilliant signing and signals the end for Simpson and or Hollander and Katic. I also feel that Sands is a misfit of the squad. I don't know what we're doing with this guy. Maybe slightly harsher on Sands, I would say there. In terms of Hollander and Katic, this could possibly be the end of their Ibrox careers, Joshua. Rangers very top-heavy now in defence and central midfield for me. I know Sands played at the back with Connor Goldson on Saturday. Katic came on, of course, in that second half. Hollander, of course, injured at the moment. Simpson we've not seen. I think it's fair to say that his Ibrox career isn't going to materialise any further, you'd imagine. But those three, could you see all three heading out the door?
Not Sands. I mean, Sands is obviously on loan for the rest of the season. I think he could be quite useful. He's not really had a chance. I mean, how many games has he started in midfield? If you look at the cup win against Dundee 3-0 last season, I think that was a good example of what Sands can give you in midfield in terms of covering a lot, being pretty solid, providing a base for others to go and play, especially if Rangers play with an out-and-out number 10 in Malik Tillman, play with wingers, get Tavernier forwards. You know, we've seen how high Borna rolls up the pitch almost at all times in the Blackpool friendly. Then you're going to need those defensive midfielders to kind of compensate, which I think Sands can do. And I also think he looked okay. Well, actually, I'm going to say I think he looked good in defence. I know sometimes people will get a little bit uptight about what he's like in the air. I know on the final day of the season against Ellis Sims, he got bodied for the opening goal.
Yeah, he lacks aerial presence and physicality.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, true. But you could look at someone like Katic, and you can have all the aerial presence in the world. True, yeah. But you need to, as a centre back, and when you're playing at home for a Rangers, this Rangers team, you need to be good on the ball. You need to be safe in possession, and I think Sands gives you that. And you know, Sands as well has played centre back for his country. I think 8-9 times now. For the USA, who, you know, are not a bad football team by any stretch of the imagination. So certainly remains to be seen where he'll fill in, whether he'll be that centre midfield cover or centre back cover. But he's also at a stage of his career. I think he's 21, going on 22. Came to Europe.
Still a young boy. People forget that.
Yeah, and he came to Scotland after winning the MLS Cup. I think he's the first ever homegrown player to do that with New York. So maybe it just takes him those 6 months to settle in, Derek. It wouldn't be the first time. We only have to look at John Lundstrom and the comments and that were circulating about him in the January transfer window. stark contrast to this transfer window. So, but Katic, I can't see him having a future in the first team. Simpson, obviously not, and Hollander. Again, it's the same conversation with Roof. When do you reach the end of a line with a player with his injuries? Obviously, you also have a duty of care to players. The same way with Nambi Offabor, you have a duty of care to him. But I certainly think there'll be more incomings and outgoings this summer. There's going to be more movement than I think we thought would be the case a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Listen, Sands is on loan, of course, until next summer, and the coaching staff think highly of him, and I think he will have a part to play. I think his versatility will be key at points. I don't think he'll nail a first-team starter position, but I think he will be brought in for certain games. But it will be an interesting one because he's a sort of player that people often forget about, really. But I'm sure he will be able to do a job at various spells. Other comments coming in. Ewan Graham gets in touch. Bloody freezing in Adelaide. Send some of that heat back over here. That just shows you how bonkers the weather is at the moment. That it's cold in Adelaide at the moment. CYM heading to Ibrox for the first time in 3 years today. He can't wait. Of course, that match tonight, Joshua, you'll be heading along for the Rangers review. First match at Ibrox this season. Of course, it's the double-header, the Premier League double-header. West Ham tonight and Spurs on Saturday. It should have been the Europa League final, this one, shouldn't it, in Seville? But it'll be good to go up against David Moyes' men, who had a great season last season.
Both games will be, I think, a good test. I'm looking forward to seeing Tottenham, Kane and Son, see them at Ibrox. But West Ham, are a very, very good Premiership side. So certainly be the stage of pre-season where it is about fitness and whatnot. But it's also about testing out new things against high-level opposition. And it'll be great to be back at Ibrox. And I think when it's it feels like a game of some sort of magnitude because you're playing against West Ham and Tottenham, who are obviously two big clubs with good players, then it makes it all the more appealing. So looking forward to heading over to Ibrox tonight. I think it'll be one of the hotter games that a lot of people have been to at the stadium. But but hopefully I'll see a bit of Malik Tillman, a little bit more of Rabi Matondo. Wouldn't mind seeing him starting in the starting 11. So I fancy Rangers they always seem to put on a decent show at Ibrox in pre-season in recent years. The good example being Real Madrid last year, which was it was a bit of a crazy game because for that first half they were absolutely peppering the Real Madrid goal, obviously who would win the Champions League at the end of the season, with a weakened squad, but still it was an amusing game to see. So expect a strong team, and the start of the season isn't far away. What is it, a week on Saturday?
It is, yeah.
So not long now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what team will start tonight, who'll play. There's a comment coming in from Alan. He says Goldson and Suter to start together tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. But there's going to come a point when I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will want his centre-half pairing and just play them all the time.
I think that's Davies, isn't it?
Well, it could be, but where does Suter fit into that, do you reckon?
He probably doesn't at the start. I mean, I think there's a chance that Rangers play a back three on occasion, but you need depth. You need, Suter is coming in with a inconsistent injury records, and I'm sure everyone will appreciate that. It's difficult for a club to say you are one of our two centre backs if you've only played X amount of games in the last 3 seasons. But you need rotational options in there as well, and that's what Van Bronckhorst didn't have at the end of last season. The squad had such a lack of depth in the areas that he needed. The midfield, up front. Even at points at centre-back, you could say. So I think Davies and Goldson will absolutely be the first choice centre-back pairing. I don't think Davies is coming in to play at left-back whatsoever. I think he could be emergency cover there. But as I say, he's 27, left-footed, just provides that balance. And Suter, alongside, who else is at centre-back there? Leon King as well. Katic and Hollander behind them. I think you need to trim that slightly, but you also need the depth and the rotational options. For me, it will definitely be Davies and Goldson from the start if and when Davies signs.
Yeah. Scott Marshall gets in touch, Josh. He's posing a question to you. How's your hair coping in the heat, Josh? Looking slick so far.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, it's fine. I took I was working yesterday, so I didn't get enough of the heat, but today I'm at the game tonight, so be out and about today. So I'll let you know tomorrow morning, Scott, or later on tonight. But all good so far.
This is another brilliant question, Josh, directed at you from Joe90. He says, Josh, do you think our fitness at the end of last season was representative of Gerrard's influence or the GVB fitness regime?
We touched on this maybe yesterday. I can't remember, Derek, but and I'm going to have to go and find this because I keep referencing the interview and I can't remember which interview it was. But there was one player who was talking about some sort of stylistic difference in training where the players under Van Bronckhorst were doing less small-sided games, and there was a focus on maybe playing over larger distances. Now, I don't know how impactful that was, but certainly when that interview aired, I thought that's really interesting because obviously things will change between managerial eras, and Rangers' fitness towards the end of last season was notable. Especially the Old Firm semi-final after 120 minutes against Braga. You look at the likes of Kent and Tavernier and Goldson and Lundstrom, and these guys are just so physically fit. But you need that in Van Bronckhorst's team, and in a way, I think that's why some of these players are quite suited to his football naturally, because they've been so good in Europe. Maybe struggled at times as a team in the past against breaking down defences, but in terms of being athletes, a lot of these guys are really impressive, especially Tavernier and Goldson, who haven't missed however many minutes in the last few seasons. Yeah. But I'm gonna at some point find out what that interview was, and because I'm interested in it to see what the difference was. But definitely, I think there was some mention about the change from a lot of small-sided games, a lot of small-sided activities over the course of the season to bigger. But you look at Gerrard's famous runs in pre-season as well, and he's not a manager that would accept anything apart from peak fitness. So obviously, I don't know, don't understand my sports science, so maybe it's one for us to dig into and look at in an article at one point.
Yeah, Susie Sheep says it's a Scott Arfield interview.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Susie. We'll go and check it out. Alan asked me, "How's your hair coping, Derek?" Not very well. I was out walking the dog earlier at like 8 a.m, and it was sweltering. So not very good. I have to say.
Derek just sits in the shade when it's this heat, Alan. Having been abroad with him, he's not the biggest fan of it.
Yeah, but I get sunburned in the shade as well. So, roll on winter time is what I'm saying. I think that'll do us there, folks. Another packed show as ever. Thanks to everyone for getting in touch. Apologies if I never got to your comments. Just a reminder, of course, that offer we've got on the website just now, just £2 you pay. You get 2 months worth of content. So just £1 a month, it works out. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. So much great content we've got on there just now. It really is packed full of stuff. You won't regret it. It's only £2.99 per month thereafter. So it's an absolute bargain. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. And if you're heading to the game tonight, safe travels and enjoy your trip to Ibrox. We'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.